I came to Patagonia for quiet. I found a building that didn't like being alone. The ranger at the last outpost drew a quick map and circled one place with his pencil. "Old Salt House," he said. "If the wind dies at night, do not step inside it. If you're already inside, do not cross the salt lines." End quote. A ready bonsai process. If the wind dies at night, do not cross the salt lines. I laughed. He didn't. By sunset, the flats turned white like bone. The salt house sat low and dark on the horizon, a long shed of warped wood and tin. The door was already open, hanging like a mouth that forgot to close. Inside, the air smelled clean and wrong, like washed cloth sealed in a box. Sacks of salt were stacked neatly. A rusted scale leaned in the corner, and a single lamp hanging from the ceiling swayed even though there was no breeze. On the floor, someone had swept salt into circles. One big ring in the center, smaller rings around it, like ripples, like rules. At the far wall, a palm print was pressed into the salt dust. The fingers were too long. I should have left. But the flats stretch forever. The cold cuts deep, and the sky goes black fast. I stayed. I laid my sleeping bag near the door and kept my boots off the circles. I stared at the lamp until my eyes burned. The wind outside kept scraping the tin roof. And then, around midnight, it stopped. Not slowed. Stopped. Silence fell so suddenly my ears rang. The lamp froze in mid-sway. Even my breath sounded loud, like a secret. Then I heard salt move. A soft scrape under the boards, as if something beneath the floor was dragging a fingernail through a pile of grains. Moonlight slipped through cracks and painted the circles in pale bars. In that light, the rings were changing. The big circle tightened, grain by grain, pulling inward. The smaller rings crept toward it, slow and patient. The room was rewriting itself. I tried to keep my eyes on the door because staring at the center felt like answering a question. But my body betrayed me. I watched the smallest ring slide a few inches, then stop, as if it noticed I was watching. A thin trail of grains crawled away from it and formed a footprint, heel, arch, toe, then another footprint beside it. 2 steps, perfectly placed, facing my sleeping bag. No weight pressed the boards. Still, the wood groaned, slow and deep, like something heavy was standing where nothing was. The footprints didn't walk. They waited. Like a polite predator. The lamp twitched once, sharp, like it was tapped. A whisper filled the air. Not words, just a dry inhale, close to my face, like breathing through fabric. In the center circle, salt began to lift. At first it looked like mist. Then the grains hovered and spun, forming a tall outline, a standing shape made of floating salt, learning how to be upright. It turned toward the wall and pressed its hand into the long palm print. The print deepened like the wall was soft. The salt house creaked, like ribs. The shape turned to me. A thin line of salt slid across the floor from the central ring, straight as a needle, heading for my sleeping bag. It climbed the fabric, grain by grain, cold as snow, heavy as intent. I grabbed loose salt and threw it across the line. The path broke. Everything paused. Then the building inhaled. The walls flexed. The roof popped. A deep pool of air ran through the room like a giant lung, sucking the scattered grains back into place. The line reformed faster and climbed higher, to my knee, to my thigh. I shoved myself toward the door. The door quietly was closed now. I pulled. It didn't move. Behind me, the salt shape took one step. No footfall. Only a faint rattle, like sand inside a skull. Another step. The air near it smelled like clean cloth and old metal. My skin prickled with the feeling of being studied by something that only understands patterns. The lamp swung hard toward me, without wind, and the far wall bowed inward, as if something behind it was pressing through, something bigger than the mask made of salt. That's when I understood. The figure wasn't the danger. It was the warning. I did the worst thing the ranger told me not to do. I stepped over the nearest salt line. Cold pain snapped up my leg like ice water. The circles flashed faintly, as if the salt had become a map of living electricity. The room seemed to hold its breath. Then it exhaled, violent and hot. The door flew open. I fell out into the night, and the wind returned, screaming across the flats. Behind me, the salt house breathed fast, hungry breaths, like it wanted to pull me back inside. I ran until my lungs burned. At dawn, the ranger found me walking the white crust, shaking, carrying my empty sleeping bag like a surrender flag. He looked at my chest and went pale. A thin white line traced up my pant leg and vanished under my shirt, pointing straight to my heart. I tried to rub it off. It didn't fall. It wasn't on me. It was in me. He wrapped blue cloth around my wrist and tied it tight. "Now you belong a little," he said, "and it will try to finish the pattern." He pointed at the horizon. "You leave today. Never come back. And if you ever hear a building sound like it's breathing, you walk away without looking." If that made your stomach drop, subscribe. The next story is worse, and you'll want the rules before it finds you.